Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swirsky's Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we have Bryant homering, the White Sox striking out, and who knows what's going on with the Hawks. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You get to see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Our good friend, Henry Jokaharju, just got sent back down to Rockford, so you can see the Blackhawks' future defensive superstar play starting at family-friendly, affordable prices. So head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swirsky Sports sent you. Alex, how is it going on this rainy Saturday evening?
Oh, it's fine. I hate this weather. It sucks. And did I mention it sucks?
You know, it snowed in Los Angeles for the first time in 30 years.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? And I think somewhere else just got a bunch of snow. Wasn't it Vegas that just got a bunch of snow too?
Flagstaff, Arizona got 35 inches of snow.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I've never been to Arizona, but it doesn't seem like anywhere in Arizona should be getting 35 inches of snow in one swoop in mid-February.
I've been there, and no, it does not. I mean, it is literally designed the way it looks. You look at the buildings, you look at the streets, it's meant to be hot all year round. It is not meant to have snow.
Oh, the weather.
Indeed.
All right, we got some White Sox talk. We got a little bit of Bears, a little bit of Cubs, and some Blackhawks. Where do you want to start?
Well, I think we know what the number one story this week is. It's not one that people particularly like to hear, but this is the thing I was waiting to talk about. You probably know what I'm talking about.
I think I do. It is Tyler Chatwood is going to pitch tomorrow, right?
Yes. No, it's not.
I'm going to guess it's Manny Machado.
Yes. I mean, this has been a topic of conversation ever since the announcement of the deal, for better or for worse.
Yeah. So my friend Gary is a longtime White Sox season ticket holder, and he sent me a tweet. Is it a text message? I think it was a text message exchange with the White Sox. So there's a message: White Sox 2019 single game tickets on sale now. Enjoy exciting promotions and giveaways all season long. And then it's got a link and it says text stop to cancel. And there's a response: why didn't you sign Manny Machado? The reply is, sorry, we don't understand your request. Reply help for help.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
oh,
so
boy.
Honestly, I think this is pretty embarrassing for this organization. You knew, I mean, the speculation was that both Harper and Machado were going to get, I mean, the ballpark was 10-year, $300 million. I mean, that's from the get-go. Some were saying, maybe a couple less years, some a couple more years, but right around those numbers. I think that was what people were saying. And the White Sox were swooping in with, lowball offers, and their final offer ended up being, less years, less money, no opt-out, and They were like, well, he could make it up in incentives. But the incentives were in the last couple of years of the contract at ages like 34, 35, him getting 400 and almost 500 at bats. I think it was 500 at bats, something like that.
It was something like that, yeah.
Sure, that you could get those at bats, but number one, that is a team controlled thing. If they decide, oh, you know what, we don't want him to get those at bats, you can bench him. He has no control over it other than filing a grievance. What about injury? People do get injured. Even healthy people playing really well can get injured. It has nothing to do with their play. There's a lot of factors that go into that. So they're like, well, and Bruce Levine was the one I was so annoyed with. He's like, well, he didn't bet on himself. A team said, we're going to guarantee you $300 million. And he gets an opt-out. So in 5 years, when he's still like 31 years old, he can opt out and get more money possibly. That's betting on yourself, not going, oh, let me have a team-controlled incentive that I could hit that maybe I'll get more for down the road. No. Like, that's the number one. Number two is there's prestige in hitting that $300 million mark. There's a prestige. You want to be the highest paid player. He wanted to hit that $300 million plateau, that mark, and the White Sox were not willing to go up to that. It's insane how frugal. I don't really want to say frugal because that there's some positive connotations to that. This is a cheap organization.
Look, let's put this scenario in a way we can pretty much all relate to. You're interviewing for two jobs with two different companies. The jobs are very similar. Let's say, I don't know, you're a computer technician and you're interviewing for two positions. Actually, no, computer technician's not the best way to do it. Let's say it involves like sales. You sell with this company or you sell with this company. They're very similar. It's by the phone in an office and you're like, okay, let's talk numbers here. What am I getting paid? One says you have a full salary. The other says you have a base salary, but commission to earn. Well, you notice that the base salary for the first company is a lot more than the base salary than the other company. And if you're earning commission, let me tell you, in sales, it's hard earning commission or earning anything meaningful. I mean, what are you going to more likely take? Are you going to take a chance and take less salary and the possibility of getting a lot in commission? Or are you going to take a higher salary knowing you're going to get paid more than that other job no matter what?
I just want to put this into perspective. Is right now for 2019, for the current season that they're in spring training for, the White Sox have a payroll of $89 million. As of next year, the 2020 season, 1 year from now, do you know what the White Sox payroll is on the books as of now for 2020?
Isn't it like something ridiculously low, like less than $20 million?
It's $26 million. And they said they were unable to go to $300 million. They were unable to.
Isn't Jason Hayward making more than the entire payroll next year?
Probably, yeah. So, or at least close.
I think John Lester's making just about that too.
So what you're saying is that you basically are broadcasting to all of the high-powered agents and all of the high-profile players that you can't come to the big boy table when it comes to free agency. You're going to go sit at the kids' table forever. You are not a small market team. You are a team that plays in Chicago, the third largest market in the country, and you are not able to sit at the big kids table when it comes to free agency. You can't sit there. It's you've basically said, nope, we don't offer opt-outs in contracts. we're going to nickel and dime you and cheap out. We're not going to offer what other teams offer, but we'll try to give you a pittance by signing your brother-in-law.
Here's the problem with Jerry Reinsdorf teams. They don't get creative when they should. They don't think about the outside the box when they should. But if it gives them an excuse to spend as little money as possible, they'll try to get creative, and it doesn't work.
It's just absolutely unreal. Jerry Reinsdorf is 82 years old. What are the odds he's alive when the Manny Machado, if he gave him a 10-year, $300 million contract, what are the odds he's still, I mean, not to be morbid, but just statistically, what are the odds he's still alive at the end of that contract? Is put your team in the best possible chance to win. Sign Manny Machado. Sign him. You put him on your team and enjoy those, what maybe he doesn't produce at $30 million worth of play at years 8, 9, and 10. But you know what? Years 1 through 7, you're probably getting a pretty good clip. And wouldn't that be nice to have on your roster? You can say things like, well, we're going to have some big contracts for the players that we have on our team down the road. But you know what? You won't be paying those players for like another 5 years. At that point, Manny Machado's contract is half over.
Look, you're going to overpay for a superstar no matter what. You are going to overpay. Everybody overpays for a big free agent. That's just how it is. If you really want to take a big step forward, this would have been the perfect time. Now, before I get into any more about where the White Sox went wrong, I'll just say this. This does not doom the rebuild. This does not mean the rebuild is going to be a failure. I still think it is going to work in the end. But this is a huge opportunity missed. And look, I don't care what anyone thinks. All these takes coming out of Sox fans saying, oh, I never wanted Manny Machado in the first place. That's bullcrap. You know you wanted Manny Machado. You know you would have been first in line to buy a Manny Machado shirt. You should be mad. In my opinion, for the Sox fans who are mad, they have every right to be mad. You should be mad. And look, if saying, oh, well, let's look at the positives of not getting him, if that's your way to cope with it, I guess I can't tell you how to cope with it, but don't sit there and tell me that you never wanted Manny Machado, because I find that very hard to believe.
Here's the thing. If you truly think you're going to compete for a World Series title, the reality is one time in over a decade, did a team that was outside the top 10 in baseball payroll win a World Series. And that was the 2015 Kansas City Royals. And they were 13th. But you have, it's basically the top paying teams are the teams that are going to win. And if you're the White Sox, you're right now are nowhere near that, and you're just going lower. You're just going lower next year. That's going the wrong way. Is sign free agents. You've got a good farm system. You've got good players. But you know what? The Padres went, we've got a good farm system too. But guess what? We're going to invest. They went out and they got Manny Machado. Manny Machado will be a Padre next year. And guess what? They went, we're still in on Bryce Harper too.
And this would be the perfect opportunity for the White Sox to say, you know what? We are getting our asses reamed right now. Screw it. Let's go get Bryce Harper. But it doesn't sound like that's going to happen.
No, they went, well, we're out. That was their response when everyone's like, oh, you're a cheap organization. Yeah, we're out on Bryce Harper too.
And look, there's been the argument of, well, you got to pay Eloy and this person in so many years. If you have the chance to get a future Hall of Fame talent and boost your rebuild and help ticket sales and help marketing, and don't think about guys that far ahead in the future. I think that's a real problem with the Cubs right now. If you have an opportunity right now to take a step forward. You take that opportunity. And you know what? Look, I think Eloy is going to be an MVP, a perennial all-star. I think a lot of these kids are going to end up being good on the Sox, but at the end of the day, there's still question marks. They haven't played in the majors. You know what Manny Machado is. You know he's a superstar. I mean, the guy has had a 6+ F-WAR season 3 of the last 4 years. And he's only 26. And I know there's a lot of risks with these big deals. I get that. You can look at a number of big deals and see some of the bad outcomes later on. But also keep in mind, a lot of the examples that people bring up, whether it's Miguel Cabrera, whether it's A-Rod, yada, yada, those guys were a lot older when they signed those big deals. Albert Pujols, Manny Machado, and Bryce Harper are 26 years old. There's a difference.
Yeah, so even with signing Manny Machado, next year, the Padres payroll is going to be $81 million. They've
That's
in
incredible.
the year after that, it's in 20. I'm sorry, that's 2021. Sorry, wait. No, I'm sorry, that was 2020. That was, and then 2021, their payroll is at 65 million with Manny Machado.
And a lot of those guys, a lot of those prospects are bringing up are going to be on rookie contracts, obviously. So
The White Sox have the 26th ranked payroll right now. 26th. They are right there with the Marlins, the Orioles as one of the bottom teams in payroll. And it's sad. Those are small baseball markets. The Marlins are a city where they're like, can we even support a baseball team?
they shouldn't even exist at this
You know,
point.
it's unreal what this cheap organization does, and the fact that they try to defend it with, well, incentives is you, and they go, well, we were sitting at the table. Yeah, you were sitting at the table, and then you got beat by a team with just as good of a farm system that actually wants to win.
The way that they patted themselves on the back for even being in the race, I think really angered a lot of Sox fans, and I can't blame you for being angry by that. Here's the other thing that kind of ticked me off, and I'm saying this as a Cub fan, I'm not even a Sox fan, but the fact that the first person we heard from after the news was Kenny Williams. Why is Kenny Williams even relevant at this point? Why do we have to listen to...
Well, he had his sunglasses on to hide how surprised his eyes were. Why in the world? I can tell you that there's absolutely no way Manny Machado's agent didn't take that 10-year, $300 million offer from the Padres, bring it to the White Sox and say, this is what we have on the table. Can you match that or beat that?
Right. That's what I'm confused about.
And there's no way. There's no way they didn't do that, because that's how you get more money. When you've got an awesome offer in hand, you try to get somebody else to match it and compete against each other. They didn't go, "Ooh, we got this, we like it," and then spurn the White Sox. The White Sox knew that offer and went, "We're out. We're out." So how is Kenny shocked? How is Kenny shocked? He was $50 million off of the guaranteed amount. $50 million. So you can spin it any way you want. $50 million is a lot of money.
Money talks, and it doesn't matter how many distant relatives or friends that you bring on to the organization, money talks in the end.
And I actually read something where his best friend and his brother-in-law both told him how awesome the Padres organization and playing in San Diego is.
Yes, I saw that. At first when I saw it, I thought it was like a satire, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. But then people were talking about that, and I had to ask, I'm like, was that legitimately true? And they're like, yeah. And I'm just like, oh my God.
So everything you did just backfired. Absolutely backfired.
And a week ago, we were talking about how it seemed inevitable that Manny Machado was going to be on the White Sox.
And stupid shame on me because, I thought that they would get this done. And my friend Gary, the whole time kept saying, he's not coming. He's not coming. And I thought he was just being, nervous and negative, but no, he was correct. Is this organization found a way to cheap out? They were all in on Manny Machado when they thought the market for Manny Machado was a lot more dry and bare than it really was. And when they got, we see what the market is, they skedaddled out of there.
Okay, so a lot of people were bringing up this question of, were they really in on Manny Machado, or were they just trying to look that way? And, to me, the White Sox really wanted Manny Machado. They weren't just doing it for some publicity stunt or whatever. They really wanted Manny Machado. And then when the Padres offer came, then they're like, well, we can't do it for whatever reasons. But I don't think that this was a whole scheme to just get some publicity. I think that they really wanted him throughout this offseason. I believe that they were probably looking at Manny Machado ever since the rebuild started. They knew that this offseason was coming, and they looked at Manny Machado and probably saw him as their prime target in this offseason 2 years ago. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, it's so frustrating. Is you could really use a veteran bat like that, especially a young superstar bat, and you had it. You could have had it, and you cheaped out. And this is a team. Isn't the biggest contract they've ever given out $68 million?
Would that be Albert Bell?
No, I think it was Jose Abreu.
Oh, was it? Well, would you count international signings as free agency? Or are you just saying contracts in general?
Contracts in, let's see, hold on. The largest contract in each team's history. The White Sox largest contract ever was Jose Abreu, 6 years, $68 million.
Okay. Huh.
That is the largest contract they've ever given out. Just for point of reference, the Angels' largest contract, $240 million. Astros, $100.
Was that Pujols?
Yes.
Okay.
Blue Jays, $126. The Braves, $135. Brewers, $105. Cardinals, $120. Cubs, $155. Dodgers, $215.
Wait, 155 for the Cubs, you said?
Lester.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Kershaw, $215. 167 for the Dodgers. Mariners, $240. Marlins, $325. Mets, $138. Nationals, $210. Phillies, $144, but likely going to be $300 plus soon. Rangers, $252. The Rays, $100 million. Red Sox, $160. Reds.
Who is the Rays? Longoria?
Evan Longoria.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Reds, $225. Rockies,
Joey Votto.
Joey Votto. Rockies, $157.75. Tigers, $248. Twins, $184.
Cabrera, I would assume.
Cabrera. Twins was Mauer. And Yankees, $275.
A-Rod.
Yep. So the White Sox aren't even in the same league with that. Their largest contract is 6 years, $68 million. So
look at the Tampa Bay Rays, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the teams that are on par with that are the Royals, who their largest contract is 5 year, $55.
Who would that have been? George Brett?
It's two players. Gil Mesh and Mike Sweeney.
Oh.
Who else is this low? The Pirates, 6 years, $60 million.
McCutcheon?
Jason Kendall
Really?
in 2000, almost 20 years ago.
Hey, I liked Jason Kendall.
The Padres' biggest deal prior to this one was 4 years, $75 million.
Was that the Hosmer contract?
James Shields.
Oh. Oh, yeah, because Eric Hosmer, I think he's spread out over more years.
Indians' largest was 4 year, $57 million. Oh, you know what? This is from 2015, but still, it's fairly recent. So it might not have the Hosmer in there.
I was gonna say that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks are probably higher too because of the
Zach Greinke.
Zach Greinke contract. But prior to that was
Yeah.
6 years, $68 million for Yasmani Tomas.
Yeah, I think Greinke definitely made more than that.
Yeah, he was like 200 some million. So most teams have had. Oh, yeah, the Athletics had a 6 year, $66 million contract. Was their big one.
Who was that?
Eric Chavez.
If the thing is with Abreu, you know that's still the case because who else big have they signed since Abreu? Somebody made a point the other day on 670 The Score. They were saying, look at the White Sox and the Bulls the past like decade. Someone was comparing this to the Carmelo Anthony thing with the Bulls, and I can see a lot of similarities, but I never really thought Carmelo Anthony was coming to the Bulls.
No.
And I thought Manny Machado was going to the White Sox.
Yes.
So there was a difference there.
So the Zach Greinke contract is $206.5 million.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Okay. So this is I found an updated list. So actually, Cleveland's is 3 years, $60 million for Edwin Encarnacion.
Okay.
And so, yeah, the White Sox.
Because I was going to say Jason Hayward's making more than John Lester. When you read John Lester's, I'm like, wait, shouldn't Jason Hayward be making more?
Yeah, Jason's is 8 year, 884. So
Yeah.
The White Sox are only a handful of teams that have never given out $100 million contract.
And you had the chance to finally give one out to a future Hall of Fame talent.
A 26-year-old.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I feel really bad for like my fellow Sox fans who are still really upset by this. And I know there's a lot of them who are upset by this. And I know it's easy to see doom and gloom now. While you should be pissed, because if I were a Sox fan, I'd be pissed on losing to the damn Padres. I mean, it's one thing if like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox were in on him and they got him because it's like, well, okay, they got unlimited money to spend. You can only do so much. And let's say the Sox offered like $315 million for Manny Machado and the Yankees got him for $350. That you could kind of just say, well, those damn Yankees. But to lose to the Padres and not even give a $300 million offer?
The White Sox are in a position where next year they have a $26 million payroll, number one. Number two, they had two superstars that are 26 years old on the free agent market. That doesn't happen at 26 years old. That is number two. Number three, basically the Yankees were out on both of them. The Dodgers were out on both of them. The Cubs were out on both of them. The Giants were out on both of them. I mean, I know there was a rumor where they were going to try to offer a higher average value, but a short contract for Harper. But
they were never in on Machado.
But Bryce Harper's, his representative said that's a short-term contract is not in the. It's not a start. It's a non-starter.
You think Scott Boras is going to do that? No.
Yeah. So basically the Giants were out of it. The Red Sox were out of it. So all of the big money teams, historic big money teams, were out on two 26-year-old superstars, and the White Sox still couldn't get it done. And this is not a knock on your team. I mean, this is a knock on your ownership. This is not indicative of how your rebuild is going, but the fact that you refuse to pony up to bring in superstar talent just speaks volumes of what this ownership thinks of its fans and how it cares about the organization.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, if I were a Sox fan, I'd be pissed. And I'm kind of pissed for White Sox fans because as a Bulls fan who's tired of Jerry Reinsdorf's crap, just seeing it continue in multiple places, honestly to me, it's infuriating. It really is. And look, like I said earlier, your rebuild can still work. You could contend for multiple championships in a year or so. I'm not saying that this completely wrecks the rebuild, but right now it has to hurt on losing out on a big talent like that. And look, maybe in the end you win more titles than the Padres. I don't know what's going to happen, but it just right now it doesn't look good. And it really didn't look good after the fact. The way the White Sox spoke to the media, it made people feel worse.
Yeah, it's embarrassing. And, you know, you top it off with after you couldn't get it done. You know, we couldn't do it. We couldn't go 300 million. You are looking for a fifth starter. So you sign a minor league contract with Irvin Santana. And this is, you know, I think it's a low risk, high reward move, but that's what you followed up with.
Not Bryce Harper.
You don't throw your hat. You don't throw your hat into the Bryce Harper ring. You sign Irvin Santana to a minor league contract that if he makes the major league roster, he gets $4 million. That's the move you make.
And at this point, do you think they would make a move for a Dallas Keuchel? Because I don't think so.
No, none chance. None chance. This is probably going to be your rotation for the White Sox is Carlos Rodon, Ivan Nova, Ronaldo Lopez, Lucas Giolito, and either Dylan Covey or Irvin Santana. That's your rotation. Yeah. There won't be a Dallas Keuchel. You're not gonna pony up for that.
The other thing people are talking about is, well, what if they go after free agents next year? They decide next year. It's like, okay, yeah, there are some notable free agents next year. The biggest one is going to be Nolan Arenado, but I would imagine Nolan Arenado is probably going to re-sign with Colorado, or if not, look for money elsewhere. I mean, there's talks that he's going to get like an extension or whatever. I'm not 100% ruling out Nolan Arenado for the White Sox, but I don't know if you really wanted to bank on that. I just feel like over the next few years, you look at the big free agents, the most likely and the biggest one that could possibly come to you, most realistically, was Manny Machado.
I heard a couple of people joke that the White Sox will sign Manny Machado after this contract.
Oh, yeah. So everyone was making that joke. I mean, look at Carmelo Anthony. He eventually got to the Bulls, but, you know.
Yeah. Here's the list for next year's free agency. Nolan Arenado, Justin Verlander, King Felix, Cole Hamels, Josh Donaldson, Rick Porcello, Matt Kemp, Anthony Rendon, Chris Davis, Russell Martin,
Rich Hill,
Jose Abreu, Ben Zobrist, Garrett Cole, Mark Trumbo, Marcelo Zuna, Xander Bogaerts, Didi Gregorius, Kendrys Morales, Matt Harvey, Francisco Cervelli, Tanner Roark, Nick Castellanos, Scooter Gennett, Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood, Trevor Cahill. You know what? While it's not a terrible list,
no,
some names in there, there's no 26-year-old superstars. There's the closest is Nolan Arenado, who will be like 29, 30 at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Justin Verlander is going to be 38. I don't see the Sox really going there. There are a few guys I think they could maybe go after. Anthony Rendon maybe would be a guy. They went after Alex Gordon a few years ago, didn't get him, but
he's in his 30s though. Anthony Rendon is going to be in his 30s. I mean, maybe they go after Matt Kemp, where he'll be 36. That seems about right.
Oh, that would seem like a total Reinsdorf move right there.
Go, yeah.
Honestly, I think he's destined to be a White Sox at this point.
Yeah, we need Russell Martin, the 38-year-old catcher.
Though I could see them going after Puig if he doesn't extend with the Reds this year. I could see. I mean, he seems like he'd be a decent fit, wouldn't you? Especially in that ballpark.
Yeah, but you know what? He's not a young guy anymore. He's going to be 30, but when next year, like,
Right.
so I mean, the White Sox won't offer him a long-term contract. They'll probably offer him like 4 years, and I'm not saying, it's here's the thing: is you can try to be fiscally responsible, and you can throw out, well, look at the contracts they signed Quintana and Chris Sale to. Oh, those were smart contracts. But you know what? Is you cheaped out on those contracts and you found people that were willing to take them because they wanted some sort of security. But Manny Machado has security already. He's filthy rich already. And somebody was going to give him a contract. Those guys they were under your team control, and they were pitchers that could very well just lose everything. And, while they made decent money, it's not, FU money. And you sign them to really nice contracts for a guy that didn't really have a lot, but well under market value. And that's how your team rolls, is you try to sign guys early so you can get them for a cheap price so you can make more money. And your team isn't winning. Your team's not winning. And I'm sorry, I don't want to, this is not to crap on White Sox fans and their team, because they deserve better. White Sox fans deserve better. They
put up with the Bulls and the Sox. That's got to be rough.
Yeah, is Jerry Reinsdorf throws nickels around like manhole covers, and it's got to be frustrating to have ownership that just won't pony up.
This is kind of a meatball take, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't believe in so much of this crosstown stuff, but the White Sox were also in perfect position to really take a leg up on the Cubs after Tom Ricketts stood in front of the media and said we ran out of money, when we all know that is complete crap. Plus all the PR stuff that's going on with the Cubs right now. The Cubs were they were getting pretty reamed. And then
the White Sox were like, hold my beer.
And then Tom Ricketts went whoosh and then ran off into the shadows. Is that I know it's a meatball-y take, but the White Sox really had an opportunity to really boost themselves in the Chicago sports world.
I've got the perfect free agent for the White Sox next year.
Who's that?
40-year-old Curtis Granderson.
Oh my God. That is perfect.
Or 47-year-old Ichiro.
Yeah, we're really excited. My name's Rick Hahn. We think that Ichiro is going to bring grit and passion to our team. And, he's really, really good and everything. And, we really think we're going to be better than where we were last year. Yeah, Hahn, no crap. It's hard to be worse than where you were last year. We know the White Sox are at least going to be improved this year no matter what. And, yeah, I mean, that's part of a rebuild. You start from the bottom and you grow your way up. And, I actually think the White Sox can take a pretty big step this year. If you get Eloy Jimenez up, and he's, again, I think he's going to be the next generational talent, and you bring him up, and if you finally get what you want from Moncada and who's some of the others, Tim Anderson, if they take the next step forward and you have Eloy Jimenez, then you are going to be significantly better, and you're going to be in a really shitty division. So, you can at least kind of bump your way up quite a bit even more. But man, right now, White Sox fans were looking pretty optimistic into this next year, especially with a lot of the impression that Manny Machado could very much come. But since Manny Machado didn't come, there's been a lot of souring. And just at the end of the day, I thought since the White Sox did this rebuild, something that they haven't really been known doing, they've been known for signing mid-tier free agents to try to contend now. I really thought it was going to be different. I thought since they changed their philosophy, the way going forward, they were going to be ready to open up the checkbooks and spend big. I really thought it was going to be different.
Yeah,
but it wasn't.
You've had how many years of a low payroll? How many years of that? And you could have been.
And Rick Hahn's sitting there telling you Melky Cabrera and Todd Frazier are going to take you to the promised land.
It is, and you could have taken that money, put it in your coffers, and said, "We're saving this for our rainy day fund." Well, guess what? Your rainy day, project was Manny Machado. Who are you going to?
If I were,
if you're a White Sox fan, and you're like, man, Eloy's going to come, but guess what? At some point, you're going to have to pay Eloy, and he's going to go to the Yankees. He's going to go to the Dodgers. He's going to come back to the Cubs because those are the teams that are going to pay him.
Yeah, it really is a shame. And, I feel for you White Sox fans who are angry. I get it. Be angry. You shouldn't let up. But at the end of the day, I guess take with what you have going forward and know that this rebuild still can work. It's got to be a very frustrating time right now.
So, yeah, my heart goes out to White Sox fans. It really does. Your ownership let you down.
Yeah.
Do you want to move to the Cubs? Do you want to talk Hawks?
Yeah,
do you want to talk
might
Bears?
as well. Might as well. We're on baseball.
All right. So we had a nice start to spring training. Chris Bryant with a home run. Cubs being undefeated in all of 2019. I just have a few questions here.
Yes.
Ultimately, who is going to be the leadoff hitter? I know they're not going to go with one guy the whole time. And who's going to get the lion's share of the leadoff at bats? And Jason Hayward got the first crack today.
Well, I think if Ben Zobrist is playing, which is not going to be every single day anymore, it's going to be Ben Zobrist. On days he's not, I think you're going to see a jumbled mess of it. I know fans are going to cringe at this, but I think Kyle Schwarber will get some time. And you know what? The way he's been patient at the plate the past year, I guess it makes more sense than Albert Almora. And I like Albert Almora, but he's not an on-base guy. We all know that. He hits for a decent average, but he doesn't take walks, and he's much tougher against lefties than righties. So I think Ben Zobrist is going to be more often than not, but again, he's not going to start every day, so it's not an easy question to answer.
So I'm going to throw out a few stats under a player, and I want you to tell me they're going to be their 2018 stats. Is it going to go up or down for 2019? First is Wilson Contreras. 2018, he had 10 home runs and a 390 slugging. Up or down for 2019?
Jason Hayward, you said?
Wilson Contreras.
I'm sorry. I think it's going to go back up.
For both home runs and slugging?
Yes.
Okay. Anthony Rizzo, 25 home runs last year. Is it going to go up or down?
It's going to go up because he has been year in, year out at 30, 31, 32. He got off to a bad start because of a bad back, and then the rest of the way, he was really dang good. So if he's fine the whole year, he'll be up. He'll be back at 31, 32.
Okay. Rizzo, 846 OPS.
It's pretty much where he's going to be. Maybe a little higher, but it's going to be around there.
Javi Baez, 34 home runs.
I think that's going to go down a tick. I see him more at 25, 28. I mean, Javi Baez is such a talented guy, but the way he plays the game, the way he's a free swinger, I don't think you're going to see a year like last year again.
Javi Baez, 326 on base percentage.
I think it's going to go down a little bit. I'm going to say around 318 to 320.
Okay, down. Chris Bryant. This is an easy one, I think. 13 home runs.
Oh, way up. I think he's going to be MVP this year. He is out for blood.
Chris Bryant, 834 OPS.
Up. It's going to be in the mid 900s to almost 1,000 like he normally is.
Okay, here's a good one. Ben Zobrist, 455 at-bats.
I'm going to go a little less. I'm going to go maybe 440.
Jose Quintana, 158 strikeouts.
I'm going to go up a little bit. He's going to tweak a few things. He's adding a changeup more. I think his strikeouts are going to go up a little bit.
John Lester, 332 ERA.
I think that's going to go up. I mean, he grinded through a lot of games last year, but just at his age and the way the peripherals have looked, I see John Lester maybe in the high threes.
He's admitted that he can't pitch with stuff anymore. It's all grind.
Yeah, that's what he is.
And I mean, it is what it is, but he's still a good pitcher.
But yeah, no, that's no doubt. But you know, when you get old, you get old. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah. So I mean, there's not a lot of Cubs going on. When we had the first game, I'm kind of excited tomorrow to see what we get from. Oh my God! Why am I having an old man moment? Tyler Chatwood pitch, because I was listening to who was I listening to? Coom Dog, and he was saying that Chatwood has, gone back and seen some of the things that the way he was pitching, and and try to tweak some of the mechanics. And as a veteran guy, he expects him to bounce back. And so I'm interested to see what kind of guy we get, because the Cubs did offer him big money.
Yes.
Is it going to be a situation where, like the first half of that James Shields contract, where he just was a bum, or is it going to be like the second half of the James Shields contract where he was pretty serviceable? And I'm just really interested to see what Chatwood's going to look like. And not that I have any the Cubs need him to be good. It's just out of I'm just curious, because it was such a bad season for him.
Oh, it was brutal. It was historically bad.
I'm curious to see if he's able to mentally put that behind him and start fresh and start anew. It's mentally, there's got to be hard. And I'm just curious to see what he's going to look like. And I know it's just spring training, but just to see the mechanics and to see some of the results and see, how he responds in his first outing with the Cubs this season.
I hope for his sake that he turns it around. I really do.
I don't wish bad on anybody, but I don't think it matters to the Cubs. Barring an injury, you've got your starting rotation. They don't need him. They're not counting on him. I think best case scenario is if he does pitch well, maybe Montgomery is not the go-to for when they add a sixth man to the rotation, during stretches with a lot of games, or if there's an injury being the next man up, and maybe it's Chatwood, but I think that's best case scenario.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, you got to get something out of him with the money you're paying him, and you know how good this stuff is. It's just he can't command it. you see the way that ball dips and dives and sinks, and it's really awesome to watch, just as pure stuff. But when it's nowhere near the strike zone, it's not going to do you any good. So, they talked about changing a mechanical flaw, and hopefully that does something. I never expect him to be overly good, but if he could cut the walks just in half, then that'll make a big difference.
If Chatwood pitches up to what the Cubs think he can do, does that make Mike Montgomery expendable and someone the Cubs could flip?
I don't think so, just because the lefty depth outside the rotation just really isn't there.
Fair.
Because they just signed Xavier Cedeno. Okay, he's solid. I really doubt Randy Rosario is going to be anything again this year. I mean, again, you look at the FIP numbers, and towards the end of the season, it really just kind of screamed flash in the pan to me. Who do you have outside that? Mike Montgomery. That's Brian Dunsing. Do you really think he's going to be any good this year?
Yeah, the Cubs have had several of those guys where they come up and they, from their pitching depth in the minors, come up and you're like, woo, I'm a little excited, and then sizzle out real quick. And I like Randy Rosario, but I think sadly think you're right that he's going to be nothing more than, a quadruple A player, or too good for triple A, but not major league quality.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope Randy Rosario can continue to be something, but I just look at the numbers and I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't either. I just, he had a couple outings where he looked really good, and you're like, oh man, is this someone we can build off of? And that it just wasn't the case.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just looking at some old.
There's one thing I do have to talk about.
Sorry, not to interrupt you. He is, I talked about some of the Cubs minor league pitching that, came up, showed a little something, and then sizzled out. Is it a name I was trying to think of? Dallas Beeler.
Oh yeah, Dallas. Yeah, I remember him.
And he came up and I was like, oh, maybe the Cubs do have a diamond in the rough in the minors. And then I was like, ooh, no diamond, just a lot of rough. Ugh.
Well, do you remember, this was the previous scheme under Hendry, but remember Randy Wells when he came up in 2009 and he was really good, and then ever since then was mediocre at best?
Dallas. I'm trying to see what Dallas Beeler has done since let's see.
Yeah, I honestly don't know.
He is pitching.
When was the last time he even pitched with the Cubs? Was it 16?
15.
Was it? Oh, is that long ago? Huh.
Yes. He is playing. Last year, he played for the Sugarland Skeeters of the Atlantic League Freedom Division.
What?
The Sugarland Skeeters of the Atlantic League Freedom Division.
Oh, the Sugarland Skeeters. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's in there with some of his pitching brethren like Logan Baucom and Tyler Badamo and Vincente Campos and Hunter Cervenka. And Corey Domel.
Cool.
So yeah, that's I trying to think of where the Sugarland Skeeters play. Maybe I could go see it. They're in Texas. They're in Sugarland, Texas, which I did not know was a thing. And their logo is a mosquito.
That's neat.
And on their field, in a couple of weeks, they're going to have the Nitro Circus,
The Nitro Circus?
The Nitro Circus at Constellation Field, which is apparently some sort of motorcycle trickery.
Oh. Is there exhaust like bug spray?
I don't know, but the I don't know what the thing that this mosquito pokes into you. I'm not sure what that's called. The poker. On the logo, it has a baseball on it. So like he's poked through a baseball.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So single game tickets. If you're interested, you can get single game tickets for. You want to go to the home opener. Why can't I? Their opening. So their home opener is versus the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs. They don't seem to have their ticket prices. Okay, well, I'm sure they're not very expensive in Sugar Land, Texas.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, I'm imagining, you could hand them a 20 and get enough money to go buy a beer and a hot dog.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there was something else you wanted to bring up. That's probably much more important than the Sugar Land Skeeters. I don't know why there's bad talk about the Skeeters. I go see them in my retirement. Clank, 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 clank. Me and Buttercup go sit in the outfield bleachers.
He's literally the only one there.
It's him in like a 17-foot radius, and he's just seeing how far he can spit Shaw.
Would the person in left center field not spit Shaw onto the track?
Buttercup,
thank you.
We'll take our Shaw and go elsewhere. Oh my goodness.
So the thing I was going to bring up was I'm going to circle back to that whole Tom Ricketts press conference and the whole we don't have any money thing. And do you believe for 1 second that Tom Ricketts doesn't have any money to spend on any more players?
No, not at all. They just announced. I mean, I understand that they're not going to get any of that TV revenue yet, but they're projecting how much they're going to get. And I understand that in the couple of years since the Dodgers got their money, it is not going to be to that level. But
no,
they are going to get a significant income boost, and you can't say there's no more money. You literally bought a $1 billion baseball team, and you're still billionaires. There is money. It's called an investment. You're not willing to invest. And the thing is, when you've owned a team for a long time, the finances are such that you usually either have no debt or low debt for your purchase of the team, and you've got a coffer from revenue that you've built up. And the Cubs don't have that. So when you buy a franchise like this, you are saying we are going to invest our money into this with the hopes of winning and bringing in future revenue to offset that. They've already won. They've already found this future source of income. And so they need to invest the money. So sure, I believe them when they say that the coffers for the organization are bare, but guess what? That's why you're a billionaire when you buy the team. It's not like, if the Bears were in trouble, the McCaskies, they're very wealthy people, but they're not billionaire status. They're millionaire status. And if they needed to put a big influx of money to, say, build a new stadium without any sort of public financing, they could not build a stadium. They don't have that kind of money. So they would need to have the NFL step in and help them with financing it. With the Cubs, the Ricketts have not owned them long enough to have built up some sort of coffers and be able to finance spending more money on the payroll from what they have saved because they just bought the team just a few years ago for $1 billion. They would have to invest their own money, and that money does exist. The Ricketts have a lot of money that they could invest, and they're just choosing not to.
I mean, look, you can put Bryce Harper aside because you know it's going to cost a lot of money no matter what. But you really can't afford Martin Maldonado. You really can't afford... Jose Iglesias just got a minor league deal. He would have been a perfect depth piece to replace Addison Russell with, or have in case Addison Russell either doesn't do what he's expected to do, gets injured, or whatever. He would have been a perfect piece to bring in on the cheap. You really couldn't have done that? You could have brought in Martin Maldonado on a 1-year deal, veteran backup catcher, one of the best defensive catchers in the game, but you're going to rely on Victor Caratini, who really hasn't shown anything in his time in the big leagues, and you really couldn't have gone out and gotten maybe one more reliever. I'm glad they got Cedeno and Brock and that guy Barnett. You know, that's fine adding depth like that, but you couldn't have gotten one more. You couldn't have made one more smaller move. I don't know. That kind of drives me crazy. And look, I don't want to rail on the Ricketts forever because, look, they did come in. They did win a World Series. They've spent like $1 billion on renovating the park, and they've spent a lot of money in the past on payroll. They have one of the biggest payrolls. They pay taxes. I get it. They have spent a lot of money. They have not been cheap, but to suddenly cry poor right now and not even spend on a few other cheap depth guys, I don't know. It just drives me nuts, but there's nothing we can do about it now, and they have the team that they have, and they're just going to try to win with it.
Here's the thing, though, is a lot of the money where they're like, oh, we put out money to do this for the renovations and to build this hotel, is they're not building those things for the benefit of the community. They're building those things to eventually they want to own that entire neighborhood. They want to own the restaurant. So they want, when you come, they want basically you to come from out of town, stay in their hotels, eat your meals with them, go out drinking from their booze, and keep in, not just pay the money when you buy your ticket, but, eat, drink, hotel, all of that money reinvested back into the Cubs. That's what they want. They want.
I get that. Yes.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But
it's a business move. I get it.
But the money they're spending, it's not charity. It's not, it's only as a business investment. They're investing that money, expecting to get it back, multiple folds over in return.
And I get that. They're a business. I completely get that. Of course, the goal is to make as much money as you can. That's what businesses do. I just don't understand some of their structuring right now. And if for some ungodly reason they really don't have any money to spend on players right now, then someone must have really screwed up in the financial department, but I don't really buy that.
It's just frustrating. It's like PR gaffes. Like if you were to say, listen, if you were to present it somehow like we just invested all this money into renovating the stadium, Wrigley, and our minor league facilities, and the hotel at the stadium, and we also are forecasting Chris Bryant a new deal, Anthony Rizzo a new deal, Quintana a new deal, et cetera, and you're like, these are the things we're forecasting that we have to factor in. So if we spend this money now, that means it's tougher for us to pay a player later. Like then that makes sense. If you're just like, we're out of money, we're just broke, we can't afford it, then crying poor, it's just a bad thing to say. It's a frustrating thing to say.
I would have accepted more if they would have just came out and said, look, some of our expenses are a little more than we thought, and we're just not going to be spending any more money right now. It may not be what we like to hear, but it will at least be a more honest answer.
It's just frustrating.
It is, but what are you going to do?
I'm still stuck on this Sugarland Skeeters. I don't know why. These are the teams that they play. The High Point Rockers, the Lancaster Barnstormers, the Southern Maryland Blue Crabs, the Long Island Ducks, the New Britain Bees, the Somerset Patriots, the York Revolution. It's just frustrating. I mean, I understand that they have a high payroll and, but they do have essentially unlimited wealth that they could spend. They're just choosing not to. And, I don't know. I just selfishly want them to sign a Bryce Harper.
Oh, of course.
All right.
Hey, have you seen the latest renovation pictures, though?
No.
They're building those like porches on the upper deck roof. It looks kind of cool. It's still in the early stages, but hey, at least that'll be neat.
Yeah, I mean, I head down there fairly often, so but being down there, you can only see certain things from the ground. Yeah, from the ground level, you can't see. But it's just crazy how much that area has changed over the past 10 years. It's crazy.
Look 2014 at how much it's changed since then.
Yeah, and not just like at the park, but all of, basically in 10 years, like almost all of the establishments that were around there have turned over. It just,
yeah, it's true.
Cubby Bear is still there. A couple of the sports shops are still there. But like
Murphy's, Bernie's.
Yeah, but I would say the vast majority have turned over. Salt and Pepper's gone.
Well, look at that whole row they tore down.
The McDonald's is gone. I can't believe it. I'll never go to another game because the McDonald's is gone.
And now they get rid of their Taco Bell too.
I don't even eat no Taco Bell. And I'm mad as hell.
The last time I went in there were two frat boys fighting and throwing Mountain Dew on each other. The other was puking in the booth.
It was a disgrace.
Oh, boy. Those are two places that won't be missed.
No. Even his franchise as a whole, man. But those two versions, like that was one of the worst Taco Bells, and I think that might have been the worst McDonald's.
You can find a much better McDonald's anywhere else.
You could find a much better McDonald's in the middle of Indiana along some trucker highway.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Should we talk a tiny bit of our Bears and then wrap it up with Blackhawks?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So, praise be to the football gods. Cody Parkey will be cut.
Finito. Unfortunately, a lot of that money is guaranteed, but yeah, writing was kind of on the wall. And
you know what is at some point we're going to look at him on another. He's going to go on another team. I mean, it's historically. I mean, he's not old, and historically, he's got very good numbers. But it wasn't even so much all of the kicks. I think the final straw was him going on television afterwards. I think that was just the final straw.
You could tell Nagy and Pace were not happy about that.
Had he not done that, and he would have rededicated himself and like said, listen, I realized that kicking at Soldier Field is tougher than I thought it would be, and I'm dedicating myself to put in more hours kicking at the actual stadium rather than in Lake Forest to perfect my craft. And, I know that we win as a team and lose as a team, but I felt I didn't do my part to help us win. things like, I think he would still be a Bear. I think he would have been a Bear. It was, I mean, not by, landslides of, totally reaffirm his position on this team, but, I think he would have had competition, but I think that appearance on television afterwards was just the slap in the face to his teammates and the coaching staff and the organization, and they were just like, he's gone. And while I don't think Redford Jones is going to walk into camp and be, handed the position, they're going to bring in, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted a kicker, but if not, they're going to bring in some undrafted free agents, and there's going to be a kicking competition.
You think there's any chance they'd consider Matt Bryant? I know he's old, but his stats are really good.
It's just money. I mean, Cody Parkey's going to count $4 million versus the cap this year because of the way they cut him. And adding another kicker for, multi-million dollars is it's a tough pill to swallow. And that's part of the reason I know a lot of people are like, oh man, Robbie Gould, homecoming, is a few factors. Is one, Robbie Gould is probably going to get money to be one of the top 5 highest paid kickers in the league.
Well, it sounds like he's going to be franchise tagged.
That part too is the 49ers have so much money in cap space. They're probably going to franchise tag him because he's just going to be paid like they would pay him in a long-term deal. They're just going to pay him in a one year deal, like a franchise tag. It's not like, oh, franchise tagging a quarterback and, it brings you up into 20 some million dollars a year. He's paid like one of the top 5 kickers. Okay, well, that's what they were going to pay him anyway. So they have no reason to let him go.
No.
So yeah. So on top of it, the Bears it doesn't make sense with where they are in the salary cap to spend that much money on the kicking position, number one. And number two is Robbie Gould probably not going to be available.
Yeah, I'm not really counting on the whole Robbie Gould thing. It's going to be somebody else. And I agree with you. I don't think Redford Jones is going to suddenly be the next guy. So we'll see what happens. I don't really have many other ideas. I don't really have a list of, who's going to be the next Bears kicker. I mean, really, the only veteran I could think of who's a free agent right now that may be a possibility is Matt Bryant. But again, he's also 43, so I don't even know if that's very possible. I don't even know if they'll even consider him, but he's just a name that always comes to my mind right now since he was released by the Falcons. It is funny. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Redford Jones, I feel like we can make a character out of Redford Jones. Just that name, Redford Jones.
Yeah, I don't even know what he looks like or what he sounds like.
I don't either.
But I really expect the Bears kicker to be somebody that's on a rookie contract. So either they're going to draft somebody or it's going to be an undrafted rookie because financially it makes sense. That they're going to pay them the bare minimum rather than spend a lot of money on somebody. And I think we're going to see them early on in the season. They're not going to go for these long kicks. They're going to go for they're going to play it safe. They're going to punt when it would be a long kick. And they're only going to kick when, it's 40 yards or, 40, 45 yards or less. They're not going to go for upper 40s or 50-yard kicks. And they're going to be conservative in that manner until, somebody shows they can do it. And then put a kicker in a high probability percentage, of making those kicks. That's sort of the reality, I think, of what we're going to see next year.
Yeah, you're probably right. But Redford Jones, My name's Redford Jones.
Redford Jones. I'm second cousin to John Lackey.
You see, I go alone. I don't have no horses or wooden horses or coconuts that make the clanking sound. I'm just a loner. I'm Redford Jones.
Redford Jones. I don't need a horse. I got 2 different shoes.
One's
I
brown.
got my planting shoe and my kicking shoe. They ain't even the same color.
His kicking shoe's a giant metal boot.
It's like Bart Simpson in the Australian episode.
Yeah, that's just what I was thinking of.
In another news is the Bears are going to cut Deion Sims.
As expected.
Yeah, everybody saw that one coming. Helen Keller saw that one coming.
I mean,
and she's dead.
Come on, $6 million for a guy that couldn't catch or really do anything last year.
Yeah, and with the concussion issues, and it just they need the cap room. They don't need him. He's gone. And you know they said that they're going to cut him, so it's just a win. But they've said they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And the word is that they're in talks with Adrian Amos. So I was a little surprised. I mean, I figured Callahan would be the one, and I have not heard anything about that.
I haven't either.
Maybe this is just see what the market is for him, but Adrian Amos, it's just going to be interesting because, you know, the eyeball test is he's a meh safety. I mean, he's not terrible, but he's not phenomenal. But if you go by advanced metrics like the Pro Football Focus things, like he's great. And it's going to be interesting to see how these conversations go in contracts because honestly, it's going to tell us what the league actually thinks about Pro Football Focus numbers. This is going to be, you know, I know everybody will be like, oh, you know, we use them for things, but to actually see how they base things financially on those metrics, this is going to be the ultimate, you know, first test of that because Adrian Amos is a Pro Football Focus darling. But in actual football, you know, acumen, he's just okay. And so it's going to be interesting to see how those negotiations go and if he ends up going to the market and testing his value there.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think Bryce Callahan, despite the injuries, is more worth it than Adrian Amos. And again, Adrian Amos isn't a terrible player, but he's really nothing special, where Bryce Callahan, when he's healthy, he's really good. He's a really good depth guy, but you know, I don't think a decision between Amos and Callahan is going to make or break your defense.
No, honestly, and if they don't sign either one of them, I'm not going to be heartbroken. You know, I think healthy Bryce Callahan is an absolute asset to your defense. You just don't see it very often or for long stretches.
Right.
So, I mean, nobody's going to know his health and health outlook better than the Bears because he's been with them for several years and their physicians are treating him. Their trainers are treating him. They're going to know what they expect of him. And if we see him come back to the Bears, that means they're hopeful and confident about, you know, his health. If they don't bring him back, that probably says something about where they feel he is medically.
Or the fact that he may just be demanding too much money for where they think he is medically.
That's fair to say too.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap this up with a little Blackhawks.
All right.
Why the hell is Henry Jokiharju still playing in Rockford?
I don't know. I don't know what any good that does. What else does he have to prove in Rockford?
Yeah, that's my point. Is what does he have to prove in Rockford? Like it's just silly. You know,
How much worse can you get with Yoka Haru up here? Their defense is already a dumpster fire.
it's you want him to get all of the NHL experience he can get because you are depending on him to be the future, you know, top 4 defenseman for your
Mm-hmm.
playoff team. That's what you expect out of him. He's the first one up in your group of young, hopefully star defensemen, and you're just sending him to Rockford, and I don't know what benefit that is. What is he learning? What is he getting out of that? And I saw a quote from Jeremy Colleton talking about how that it's a good place for him right now, and I don't understand why. Maybe I'm missing something, and that's possible. I just don't see the point. It's not like this team is like, oh, you know, there's been some liability here, and we're a playoff contender, and you know we need to have veterans in here for the cup run. It's not the case. You're not a playoff team. We'll get to more in that in a second, but you're not a playoff team. You're not making a cup run. So why not give him a chance to play in the NHL against the people he's going to be playing against for the rest of his career? Why not get to learn from a Duncan Keith?
I don't know. I really wish I had an answer for you. I don't get it.
And you know, speaking to my point is this not being a playoff team is I know a lot of people were getting all excited because if they would have beat the Avalanche, they would have moved into the last wild card spot. But you know what? They lost to the Avalanche. And I fully expected them to lose to the Avalanche because this Blackhawks team beats the hell out of bad teams, and they really struggle against any team that's mediocre or better.
It was kind of funny, though, because the Red Wings, who are worse than the Hawks, should have beaten the Hawks the other night. Cam Ward made some saves that kept him in it. I mean, that third period in Detroit was probably the worst third period by a Hawks team I've ever seen. And they actually outshot the Avalanche last night, and they lost a very frustrating game. But, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you see the way the Hawks play defense. I mean, they won 8-7 against the Senators, for goodness sake. They gave up 7 goals to the Senators. And we're starting to see Colin Delia kind of come down to earth a little bit. I think he's got a lot of work to do still. He's giving up a lot of soft goals and just, I don't know. He's got some work to do. Let's say that. I'm not giving up on him all of a sudden by any means, but there's still a lot of kinks to work out with him. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Cam Ward has really kind of helped win some of these games.
So then what do? Send Colin Delia back down to the minors when Corey Crawford comes back next week?
Well, I mean, if Corey Crawford does come back, you got to send one of them down. It's certainly not going to be Cam Ward.
And they say that Corey Crawford's probably going to be back next week.
Huh.
I mean,
look, I love Corey Crawford, but
he's day to day now, and I love Corey Crawford too. Who knows what you're going to get out of him, and for how long before. If you have serious concussion issues in the NHL,
I worry about him.
I do. I really do too. I'm right there with you. I think we've talked about this before, and I mean, if granted, I don't have his medicals, but just from what we've seen and what's been publicly known, if he was my friend or family member, I'd be urging him to just hang it up.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, here's a question for you. Do you think Corey Crawford would be coming back if they didn't go on that big win streak and they were second to last in the Western Conference to the LA Kings? Or do you think they'd still bring him back?
They'd still bring him back.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, you know, if he wants to play and he's if he's medically cleared, what can you really do? Honestly, they're still in last place in their division. They're still dead last.
Yeah, that is weird.
And if you look at based on the draft order, they have the eighth best or the eighth worst record in hockey, and it's their
That goes to show how bad our conference is.
yeah. So it's right now it's Ottawa, Los Angeles, Detroit, New Jersey, Edmonton, Anaheim, Vancouver, Chicago. And the Blackhawks went on that really long run, and they're still in the hunt. I mean, Ottawa and Los Angeles are pretty bad, but Detroit, New Jersey, Edmonton, Anaheim, Vancouver, Chicago, Arizona, the Rangers, Minnesota, Flyers, Florida, they're all bunched together. And so in 2 weeks' time, any of those draft orders could fly around, and with 20 games left, we're really going to see some fluctuations in this draft order. But in reality, the Blackhawks, I still think, are closer to being a top 5 draft pick than they are of being in the playoffs.
Yeah, at the end of the day, especially if they make trades, I mean, let's face it, I don't think they're going to be buying. I am 99.9% certain they're not going to be buying. They're going to either sell a few pieces or stand pat, but they're not going to be buying. So, and look, Patrick Kane is playing on a whole other level. Like right now, he's playing like the MVP of the league. That guy's unreal. He's 1 away from 40 goals. He's going to exceed his goal and assist and point career high this year. He's having a season of a lifetime. You look at Alex DeBrincat, he's an absolute monster too. Jonathan Toews is doing well. Brandon Saad is doing well. But look, you need a defense to go far. And you're going to see Kane probably eventually have a little cold streak before the end of the season. And he's really put the team on his back. If it wasn't for him and a few other guys, they wouldn't be anywhere close to this record. So inevitably, when he stops scoring, which he'll go through a little dry spell, they're not going to win games.
It's going to be interesting. So the NHL trade deadline is just a couple days away. So we're recording this on
trades.
Yeah, we're recording this on Saturday night, and at this point, the NHL trade deadline is in 1 day, 17 hours, 1 minute, and 12 seconds. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, the Blackhawks, there's pieces they can move. I mean, for the most part, other than Saad, anybody in your bottom 6 forwards, you can move. They've been kind of dreadful. You're not getting any scoring from those bottom 2 lines other than Saad. You could easily move on from any of those guys. And
sounds like they're still working on trading Anisimov too, which makes sense.
Yeah. If you move Anisimov, if you can move Kruger, it hurts you in the immediate, which is good for you because gets you closer to top 5 pick. And, it brings you, some sort of assets for the future.
Keep thinking about the future. Just keep thinking about it.
And
even if this team does squeak into the playoffs, I can only imagine what like a Winnipeg or any other top team would do to that defense.
Yeah. I mean, and I know a lot of people are down on the Blackhawks management, but if you look what the Blackhawks traded when they made the trade for Dylan Strome, how that's paid off. I don't know if anybody was a huge fan of that trade.
Oh, I was. For the record.
When they traded Schmaltz. I mean, I don't think anybody was like, yes, the Blackhawks crushed that trade. It was, I think people were like, oh, well, they're giving up a lot and hopefully getting a lot. And I think they've just blasted that trade and it looks fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I don't think Nick Schmaltz was really a fit here, and Strome has looked really good, so that's a big win for Stan Bowman. The difference between Garpax and Stan Bowman, who have gotten a lot of crap this year, is Stan Bowman has made up for some of his sins, and Garpax has made things worse. Even though maybe Otto Porter may be somewhat decent going forward, but, still a lot of bad.
Yeah. And, you're still seeing a lot of the same crap with the Blackhawks. Way too many turnovers.
Out of place, like crap.
The defense is making bad decisions and out of position, and doing a lot of chasing. It's the same things over and over. You're seeing great power play. The top two lines look fantastic. Goalie play, it's had up and downs, but it's been pretty solid considering that your superstar goalie has been injured for a year. It's the same problems over and over. And to hear that the Blackhawks, all of their young defensemen except for Gustafsson are on the block is odd to hear. Unless they think that they could trade a prospect and bring in, a known commodity. I just don't know what you think you can trade some of your young defensemen and get.
I don't know what you get either in that scenario.
I feel like you're risking a lot to make.
I don't think they're actually going to do anything like that, but I'm at least okay with them keeping an open mind on a number of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's you never say never, but I can't for the life of me think that there is a reasonable trade that you're going to trade any of your recently drafted defensemen, your future top 4 defensemen. I just don't see any way that you can trade one of them and get some sort of good value.
I don't either. I really don't.
But really, that's all I had. I don't know if there's anything else you had to talk about.
No, I think I pretty much gave everything I did. And wouldn't it be really wild if at this time next week we were somehow talking White Sox getting Bryce Harper?
And we could also talk about how pigs fly.
Well, I did see a pig fly once. It was one of those full baked, when you like a rotisserie or whatever you call it, a pig, and then someone let it go and it flew across the room.
Not that you're going to talk about after Homer had the BBBBQ, extra B was for BYOBB, and that extra B was a typo, and then Lisa had the gazpacho that nobody wanted to eat, and then the pig went flying.
It's just a little dirty. It's still good. It's still good. It's just a little slimy. It's still good. It's still good. It's just a little airborne.
I'll be donating it when pigs fly. Will you still be donating, sir? No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. It's still good. It's still good. It's gone. I know.
The extra B is for BYOBB. That extra B is a typo. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swirsky Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please make sure you hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether that's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, or the TuneIn app. Make sure you share this podcast with your friends that like Chicago sports. That is how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swirsky Sports, Facebook.com/Swirsky Sports, SwirskySports.com. And thank you guys again so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my
my van, and she looks like... Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go Bears.